It's How to Train Your Dragon, but with a slightly more serious coat of paint.
Hi, I'm Luke.
And I'm Becca, and we're talking about movies like we know stuff.
Hey everyone, so the theme of this summer apparently is going to see movies that I vehemently said I would not pay to see in theaters. And this week's edition is the live action How to Train Your Dragon. Cue the John Powell score. Don't copyright strike us. Gosh,
All right.
How do we get started?
Yeah, so we'll first start this off spoiler-free, but we'll let you guys know when we want to switch over to spoilers. So, just overall thoughts on the movie, keeping it spoiler-free. What are your overall thoughts on it?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Okay.
I still think at the end of the day, I'm always going to pick the original over this. I probably won't go back to this one very much. But overall, despite my critiques, and I do have them, I felt like Universal's first attempt at making a live action was far better than most of the Disney live action remakes I've seen.
Yeah.
And that, in general, they seem like they understood the assignment. And if the people at Disney were doing the same thing, there wouldn't be such a worldwide loathing of their live action remakes.
So, if you can, without getting into spoilers, why do you think that How to Train Your Dragon hit the mark, whereas the Disney remakes maybe didn't?
This is gonna sound so mean. Well, most of the people in this movie could actually act, which is something that has been wanting, in my opinion. The performances weren't wooden. They didn't add an excessive amount of unfunny jokes or bits.
Sure.
And they didn't add an extra 40 minutes of backstory.
Yeah.
That I never asked for.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah.
Those are just some of the things that somebody on the production team of this movie decided to omit.
Yeah, that's fair. I was thinking about this after the movie was over, and I don't know if I have a good answer, so maybe I can think out loud and get my thoughts. But I was wondering, what could a live-action remake do to make me actually like the live-action remake? And I think the only answer I could come up with in my head while I was thinking about this was, it would have to be a movie where I would say, oh, this would be really cool if I saw real people doing this. And I don't know what that is, but I feel like How to Train Your Dragon came close to that.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Disney animated movies that have been remade live action, I haven't said like, oh, what if this was more realistic looking and looked more like real people did it, or is real people doing it?
Yeah.
I never really said that. And again, I will say that I didn't think that with How to Train Your Dragon, but I will say it fits there and it scratches that itch better than any of the Disney ones did. That's kind of what I came to. But ultimately, I think that live actions are they're okay. They're mediocre at best, in my opinion, in terms of overall, in terms of like entertainment value, because again, we've seen the movie already. It's just different.
Right. So one thing I can say in defense, and I want to speak to your point about, what would this be like in real life? That something I did appreciate about this movie is because at least like the people were real. That it was interesting just to feel like the weight of things more. The weight of the battles. You could see like the weight of the weapon. And everything feels so much more removed and fairy tale-like in animation because you're removed from that level of realism. That like seeing the kids like falling off of literal cliffs and lifting like giant axes was kind of interesting. That there were some scenes like during the battle that I'm like, oh, this feels like decently on par with like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not saying I needed it, but I appreciated it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, a lot of the Disney live action remakes I think suffer because they're so colorless and washed out compared to the animated films. But How to Train Your Dragon as an animated film, it really isn't excelling in color. I feel like the color palettes were actually pretty consistent between the two movies.
Sure.
That I didn't feel like this was an ugly, washed out,
like gray film, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it wasn't like sad under the sea in the Little Mermaid remake.
Yeah.
Some of the stills that I saw.
Yeah. Okay. Just because you mentioned it, I was gonna bring it up later, but just because you mentioned it, you said the weight of the weapons. I agree with your point overall, is that the realism did help solidify things.
Yeah. I mean, it made the conflict more real to me. It made the war more real to me because it wasn't this like kind of Looney Tunes battle animation where these crazy things happen, but like nobody's really getting hurt.
Right. Yeah. But the one thing, it actually stood out to me to the point where I wrote a note on it. The first time that Astrid does the thing where this is for this and this is for everything else, You know, the first one she does is the mean one where she like punches him, he falls over or something like that, and then she like she bounces the axe off him or whatever. Obviously you can't bounce an axe off someone's chest, but that action, the way they animated it in the original, gave the axe a lot of weight. Whereas this one, she just kind of like fake smashed the axe handle into Hiccup, and I'm like, that didn't look right. That looks like this axe is made of styrofoam.
That's true.
And there was like no weight there at all.
Yeah,
So
it definitely cheapened the joke a bit.
yeah, for sure. So anyway, that was too close to spoilers. Not spoilers, but that's talking more details about the movies.
Yeah, like spoilers like in quotation marks because
the original movie's been out for a long time.
exactly, and this is not drastically different.
No, it's pretty close. It's really close. It holds pretty close to the original. Now, I was worried, again, going back to my comments about what would make a live action good in my eyes. When I was watching the trailer for this movie, I'm like, this is gonna be just a shot-for-shot remake of the entire movie, and why do I want to go see that? But there is changes that we'll talk about after the spoiler section that happen that give it a little bit of spice, a little bit of flair. A couple of times where I'm like, not sure that was necessary, but whatever. You got to do something different. So
Yeah, like the mild changes they made, I generally, again, either they were innocuous, they didn't really matter, or again, that's in spoiler territory,
sure.
so I'll hold my comment on
Sure.
like kind of like the one major thing I think that they changed that I thought was just dumb.
yeah, right. I would say if you want to go see this movie in theaters, try to get it at a theater where they have a really good sound system and a gigantic screen for you to watch it on. I feel like if you can get immersed in the audio and visual elements of this movie, I think it'd be worth seeing in the theaters. But if you can't, then I'd say watching it at home is fine, and there's no need to like rush to the theater for this. That's my overall review. So thumbs mostly up for me.
Yeah, so when I was spouting off about how like I was above going to see this, so clearly not spoiler, but I did mention I was maybe interested because of the music. And I will say, for most of it, that's for spoilers, the music was 10 out of 10. And it was so nice to hear it in a theater again. And even though we weren't in like the IMAX or
the high-end theater.
We were not in a high-end theater. We were in a very poorly attended, the movie's been out for a while theater. But I still got chills at the moments I usually do. I still teared up at the moments that I usually do because the heart of this movie is the music.
And it's still there. Yeah.
And if they had made significant changes to that, if they had toned it down or like remixed it significantly, that would have hurt this for me immensely.
Yeah.
It would have made it a waste of my time.
Sure, that's fair. Completely fair. So, are you thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs somewhere in the middle? What do you think?
You know, I'm gonna say thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I'm gonna say thumbs up.
Yeah.
I'm not thumbs up, keeping in mind I'm probably not gonna buy it. But still thumbs up.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, save it for the streaming services if you have it. So, yep, agreed. All right, and that concludes our spoiler-free section of this. So, quick pause, and we're gonna get into the spoilers here. All right, if you're still with us, we're getting into the spoiler section of the review. So, we're gonna kick it off with some story and plot points. So, Becca, kick it off.
Me?
Yes.
So, for story and plot, I don't have too many critiques, honestly. Again, I feel like it stuck pretty true. There were a couple of lines of dialogue that I noticed, only because I know the original so well, where I felt like it was like slightly over-explaining.
Yeah, okay. You remember the dialogue way better than I do. Like,
Yeah.
I remember a lot of it, but there were some points where I'm like, I can't remember if this is in the movie, and at one point you were like, this is in the movie. So,
Yeah, like I had to reassure you. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, this is what happened.
Right.
'Cause I don't think the script is perfect in the first one. There's
Sure.
definitely some like cringy lines.
Sure.
But almost, it was almost word for word in a lot of places. I appreciate that most of the moments that I was like looking forward to, where there was like an emotional break, that they kept in.
Yeah.
And that was such a relief to me. It was a relief to me that things like a stoic looking like he's gonna break down and cry after he, has like that big fight with Hiccup, like he realizes that Hiccup is actually siding with the dragons and not slaying them, and he locks them up and goes to war, and he just takes this pause where he looks like he's going to cry.
Right, yeah. Yep.
And they kept that in, and they kept the moment in at the end, whenever Hiccup is about to fly off and save the day, and Toothless, not too stoic, like grabs his hand to be like, I'm sorry. So I'm really glad that they kept
really important emotional beats that they kept in the movie.
They kept those moments in.
Yeah.
I will say I didn't feel like the jokes from the original always landed, just because of the delivery.
Right, they all didn't make it in either.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the jokes from the kids didn't make
So,
it in.
yeah, so let me just, here's my newspaper headline, and I think it applies very much to what you're saying here. Here's my newspaper headline for this movie. It's How to Train Your Dragon, but with a slightly more serious coat of paint put on it.
Oh, that's
That's
a
what
really
I think
good way
it
to
is.
put it,
It's
yeah.
a slightly more serious How to Train Your Dragon. Not so serious that it's not amusing or funny or kids won't enjoy it or whatever.
Yeah, like there's some
But
whimsy.
I noticed there's a number of jokes taken out just because they simply don't make sense in like a human context, I guess. And they just wouldn't have landed in the more serious tone that this movie takes over the animated. So that's my newspaper headline for this movie.
Yeah.
So, yep.
That's fair. And it kind of relates back to when I was talking about, it was interesting to see like the weight of like the weapons and the weight of war is you feel like the struggle of this community
Right.
so much more.
Right.
Where like in the animated films, they feel like plussed up kind of like Spyro universes, like
Yeah.
even the design. And this feels more like, oh man, if I lived in this village, this would actually be really stressful and terrible, and
Sure.
I would need to be hunter be hunted.
Yeah, right.
But I do want to talk about a couple of small changes.
Okay, go ahead.
One was when, Gerard Butler, Stoic, is talking to the clans, not the clans, but I guess they were clans that came together to form,
Yeah.
the whole like
The main island, the island of Burke.
the group of people, and I didn't necessarily need like the diversity speech where he was like, you people are from the Silk Lands and you people are from the Mountain Lands, and I guess that was their way of explaining why different races were existing together.
Why not all the characters were just white people, which is of Nordic heritage. So
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, again, it's fine.
It's whatever.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, no, it's kind of dumb. On the other hand, I don't care that everybody wasn't white. Like,
Yeah.
that didn't take away from
Nah,
me.
it didn't bother me.
But that felt like something they had to shove in because they're like, oh, by the way, Vikings could be anybody. And
Yeah.
I'm like, they were probably Nordic, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Right, exactly.
And another change that actually straight up bothered me was during the scene where Hiccup is supposed to kill the dragon.
Yes.
He's the valedictorian, he's gonna go kill the dragon. And I...
Oh, in the training session, not Toothless.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Okay.
Yes, like near the end of the movie.
Yep.
Astrid, I thought she was like ridiculously supportive. Like she was
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
Like in the movie, the original animated movie, she's still really not that sure at that point. Like the day before, she discovers Hiccup's secret. They go on a magical carpet dragon ride. They,
Yeah.
They find the dragon lair, and Astrid doesn't blow his cover, but she's not like
She's not bought in on it.
yeah, she's not hanging out with him in the stadium, and she's not going in to help him get away from the dragon. She's really not involved. Like, she really doesn't come back into the story
Right.
until all the Vikings have left with Toothless, like, chained up. Like,
Right.
that's when she comes back.
Yeah.
So I thought she turned on a dime in an instant, and I thought it was ridiculous.
She did, and I think that might be exacerbated. I was going to save this probably for characters, but since you're bringing it up, and I think it applies here, the whole Astrid, I came from nothing, and you're just a Nepo baby speech that she gave early on, that made her even more of like a, dragon hater kind of like person, and then for her to switch, like you said, so
Yeah.
quickly, it's just like, so not only is she, like, in the animated version, she might be like close to like the dragon support line, but she's still very much on the Viking side. And so that movement from the Viking side to the dragon side is more believable because she's not just so against it or whatever. But like in this one, she gives this whole speech talking about how like she came from nothing and she's gonna be the new clan leader and she's the best dragon killer. Like that puts her so much
she's
far.
earned everything,
Yeah, and she's
and
earned everything, and that
she's-
puts her so much farther on the Viking side. That the swing to the dragon side felt
Unearned.
unearned. Yeah,
Unrealistic. And
Correct.
I feel like Astrid, she's more like biased than stoic.
she really is.
That aside, I don't feel like her character was changed that much more. I feel like she was pretty much the same.
Yes.
But-
and the other thing on Astrid is that point never came up again. Like if you're gonna bring that up,
Yeah.
like resolve it in some way, shape, or form. Like
Right.
she never mentions that ever again.
Right.
Weird.
And I thought that might have come up later, or maybe they would have had her, like, they could have tied that back in where, say, it's, we're getting near the third act breakup and Hiccup is crowned valedictorian, and maybe Astrid's parents say something like, oh, well, that figures, we're just like the low level, nobodies of the tribe, doesn't matter how hard you work. Like,
Right.
there was just nothing to bring that back.
Yeah.
Like, Astrid seemed like she was fine.
Yeah, it was weird.
She wasn't like shoddily clothed or
Yeah.
like she didn't seem like she was struggling
Yeah.
for, admiration or friends. It just
Yeah. Right.
and
I
that-
agree with you, 100%.
that was a very like Disney live action remake thing to do.
Sure. Yeah, it was for sure.
And that was the one point Also because that scene felt kind of bloated, it kept going on so long, where Astrid's like, I'm helping you, and and I'm gonna stand by you. Like, really? Like, you loathed this guy less than 7 hours ago, probably.
Right, yeah.
I just don't.
Don't buy it.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I got you on that one. Okay,
Don't buy it.
keep going.
There were a couple of moments where you could tell the scenes were a little bloated, a little, the little live action suffering. All the fight scenes felt like they were a little longer than they were
Yep.
in the original. And generally that wasn't needed.
Yep.
It wasn't necessary. But not so bad that I was getting bored, that I was checking the time.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's it. I think that's really all I have to say. I think, I said this when we were walking out of the film, that I feel like the people who are on the production staff for this movie understood the assignment better than I expected them to.
Yeah.
And at sometimes it was so on point, it almost felt like I was watching the original, but they just put like an AI filter on it, make it look like humans.
Yeah, right.
So is that a good thing? Is that an unnecessary
Right,
thing?
yeah.
But at least a lot of this movie isn't trying to fix something that wasn't broken in the first place.
Right.
And after just travesties like the Lilo and Stitch remake, that was a relief for me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I have two more things that I'd like to talk about. You're always talking about how movies that show but don't tell are better. And so I think that at least one time during this movie, there was a situation where at the beginning of the movie, when the Vikings go off to go try to find the dragon's nest and kill the dragon's nest or whatever, and then in the animated version, they come back with like 1, 2, maybe 3 ships, and they're all tattered and beaten. There's like nobody left on the ships, basically. In this one, they showed their adventure into the fog, and they showed the battle, and they showed everybody getting like wiped out and presumably killed. Killed in a kids movie.
Yeah, or injured.
Yeah, killed in a kids movie.
They come back with bandages.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they come back on the tattered and broken ships or whatever. I feel like in the animated version, it delivers that news much better in the sense that you don't see what happens, but because you see how bad the ships come back after the raid. I feel like I didn't need to be shown what happened. I liked it better when it was just my imagination of like, oh, they got destroyed.
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was just...
And it just added unnecessary time to the movie as well.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, question for you, because I couldn't confirm this. This is major spoilers for the movie, but did Hiccup ever learn that they were not so fireproof on the inside?
The dragon?
Yeah. Did they have that moment where the little baby dragon tries to steal one of Toothless's fish, and then he shoots a little fireball inside of him, and the little baby dragon becomes all dizzy? Remember that? Remember that scene in the animated version?
Yeah.
Did they do that in this one?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either. So again,
Was that a big reveal? I thought that was just a gag in the original.
No, it's not a
movie.
gag. So okay, I'm surprised I'm going to point this out to you. I thought you would have picked up on this. The final boss dragon that Toothless and Hiccup fight. They use all of the things that Hiccup learns.
Well, yeah, I knew that.
Through combat
and I know
training.
how like the final dragon is defeated.
Well, right,
but-
exactly. And they shoot a fireball inside of him, basically. The only reason that Hiccup knew to do something like that was from the experience where
They're doing the training.
Toothless like shoots the little mini fireball inside the baby dragon, and it goes, and like spins around and is all dizzy. Remember that scene?
I do. I guess it just didn't stick with me as like a big reveal.
Yeah, no. The reason that he knew how to fight the big dragon is because he learned that from the small dragon. And so he uses all these tools.
Would any tool? No. Would any creature be fireproof inside? I just figured he had Toothless shoot a fireball into him because that's like the Night Fury signature move.
I mean, it is the signature move for sure, but it kind of is revealed in the animated movie that becomes Hiccup's plan as he learns. They use all of their things they've learned through dragon training and through Hiccup bonding with Toothless to fight the big
Right,
dragon,
how to tame
basically.
them, yeah.
And so the only one that they don't use throughout the entire movie until the final fight is that they're not fireproof on the inside. And so that's why he comes up with a plan to shoot the fireball inside the big dragon's mouth to kill it, basically. So to me, that felt unearned. Like he just again, it'd be more like what you said.
Guess,
It would be more like what you said. Like, oh, that's just what Night Furies do, Whereas in the original, they set it up like, hey, just so you know, hint, hint, wink, wink, Chekhov's gun. You shoot a fireball inside a dragon, it hurts them a lot more.
Huh? Yeah. No. I mean, not no to you, but like,
Right.
no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
if that was the setup in the original, and I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Also, it could just be like, that's just how you interpret it, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But yeah, for both versions, I feel like there should have been a little more build up to how Hiccup figured out how he was going to like kill the queen bee
Right, yeah.
dragon.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And that's definitely, a weak part of the story, I think.
Agreed.
If they were going to over-explain anything, I would have liked a little more explanation for said evil giant Jurassic Park dragon.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that would have been cool.
Like,
to,
that would have been interesting,
Kind of
but-
understand why that dragon exists, yeah.
Yeah, like, who is this dragon? Have the dragons always had to bow down to a leader? I thought the Night Fury was the alpha really for everybody, so why does this monstrosity exist? Is there
Right.
going to be a new one?
Right.
Is Toothless now the alpha?
Right.
What?
How does this lore work? Yeah, we don't know how
Those
this
are
lore
questions
works.
I'm curious
Yeah,
about.
those would
that
be good questions to answer.
were not addressed, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, the next topic we want to talk about is characters. How did you feel about the various characters?
Ooh, I have so many thoughts.
All right,
so
I'm ready.
let me go.
Yep, have at it.
So, the guy who played Hiccup,
Mm-hmm.
he ended up really growing on me. I do think he did look like what Hiccup would look like if he was a person.
A real
like,
person,
A real
yeah,
person.
right.
I did miss the Jay Baruchel. I'm probably butchering his last name, but I missed his voice. I missed his like dorky, iconic Hiccup voice.
Yeah.
It was a little off-putting that he
Yeah.
just kind of sounded like a regular guy.
Agreed.
But he looked like Hiccup.
He did. Yep.
On that note, I will say I'm really glad that Epic Universe, they cast all of their, How to Train Your Dragon actors after the animated movie, like their looks and their voices, because now I can relive my dreams whenever I get to Epic. But okay, I digress. I liked him a lot. I thought that he gave a really believable performance. I feel like because the main actors were so well cast, and I mean main, I feel like there was miscast too, but the main core people were so well cast that all the emotional beats hit in the way that I wanted them to.
Sure. Yeah.
I felt like when Hiccup tells Astrid, no, I'm not going to put my pet dragon at risk, I believed him. And when he was frustrated, I believed him. And when he was scared, I was pleased. He was fine.
Yeah.
Actually, quite good.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, he grew on me as well. I missed the voice, but it grew on you for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say maybe a hot take, but I did not get used to Gobber at all.
Yeah, I was
is-
thinking, wait, who's the original Gobber? Who's Gobber? Is it Craig Ferguson?
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
I don't know what he looks like.
Oh, really?
Could he have been Gobber? Like, could he have?
No, he's like a tall, skinny guy.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So like
Which,
not at all.
again, the animated one is so exaggerated. Like Stoic is enormous. Gobber is very, very top heavy. There's no humans that look
Right.
like either of those characters, or really any character. In
Like
How
when
to
you
Train Your
mentioned that
Dragon.
Snoutlout wasn't triangular enough, and I was like, well, Snoutlout was also animated.
Right. That's exactly. So.
I will agree. I guess I wasn't putting Gobber in that. When I'm thinking of the really strong people, I'm mostly thinking of Stoic and Hiccup.
Yeah, well, they're the main characters. I
like-
hope they nail those ones.
And for the most part, Astrid was fine, even though
Yeah.
at first, to me, I was like, oh, you're just like MJ from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
which
right.
is fine, but that's not like what I picture as Astrid.
Right.
But she grew on me eventually as
Yeah.
well. But to your comment about Gobber was fine. He was fine, but he never like won me over the way like Hiccup did.
Right.
I do want to say something about Gerard Butler.
Okay, please do.
Gerard Butler, loved him. I thought he was great. I thought he put the same like emotional gravitas into the role as he did when he voiced it. And it reminded me of years ago, I saw the original cast of Aladdin on Broadway. And Jonathan Freeman, who's the voice of Jafar in the animated, reprised his role, for the stage. Because like at this point, like he was an older man and he like looked the part. And it was such a magical experience that I almost like fell off the balcony, like leaning over just to like admire his work essentially. And this felt like a very similar experience that I thought this is great. Like I didn't feel like it was like a cheapened
Yeah.
cosplay version that he really did embody the character. He brought him to life.
Yeah.
Super, super strong performance. Wonderful, excellent, not clickbaity celebrity casting choice. I can't believe I was as pleased as I was.
Yeah. Well, good.
What about you?
That's awesome. For what?
Gerard Butler. How did you feel?
I mean, I liked him. I mean, yeah, it was cool to see his voice and everything come back, and
like it was like the same.
Yeah,
like,
it was
really
pretty cool.
was the same.
other than the fact that Stoic is like enormous.
Yeah, but they made him look
But they made him
enormous.
look
The
good,
design
yeah.
was great.
Yeah,
like they
they did.
made. He's what I would have pictured as Stoic as a living human,
Sure.
a breathing person.
Yep.
I do want to mention for characters for the teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they weren't cast that well.
Okay.
With the exception of like Fish Legs.
Okay.
I think he's the only one that I really felt like embodied the animated version.
I don't know his name, but all I do is I recognize him from the second Deadpool, I think. He's the teen that he meets in the prison in Deadpool 2.
Who?
Fish Legs.
Oh, really?
The same actor that plays Fish Legs is the one from the second Deadpool movie, the one he meets in the jail.
Oh, yeah. I've only seen the second Deadpool once, so.
So have I.
But okay, clearly it stuck with you more.
Yes.
But I felt like Fish Legs is the only one that was really scratched the itch that I felt like he embodied the character. Snotlot was fine. I thought the subplot of his like dad ignoring him was very like Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, just admiring his dad who wants nothing to do with him. The vibes are similar. I want to say for the twins that why was there no effort made cast people that vaguely looked like people from the movie?
Yeah.
Like these two actors, they didn't even look like they were related.
No, they didn't.
And like Roughnut, she didn't act like herself at all. And I just wanted that like goofy like Kristen Wiig performance, like like that like kind of surfer voice, and that arrogance, like that, where she thinks she's like really hot stuff. And I didn't get that at all from like the actress playing Roughnut.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. I think my overall critique of the children was that most of them were a little too effeminate, in my opinion. They were very
whenever like Vikings are supposed to be like
gritty
and tough.
somewhat masculine. Yeah, exactly. They're just a little bit more effeminate to me. So that was just my personal opinion on it. So
it was just a bummer because especially for the twins, they are so funny.
They're hilarious in the animated
version. The three, animated movies. And I've heard they're very funny in the cartoon, like the cartoon series that I've never watched but have been told to watch. And like the videos of the actors playing them in Epic, they are
they're hilarious. Yeah, they are.
So there's like maybe like one or two jokes, but overall, they're like the heart of the comedy for so much of this universe, and that's where this felt Disney live action remake. When it doesn't hit, that's what it's going to be called. That's what it's going to be deemed.
Yeah, right. Anything else on characters?
Maybe not characters.
Okay.
But I feel like it kind of relates that, we're seeing this universe in real life with real people. And in the original animated versions, you don't see any like kids beside the main teenagers, Hiccup and friends. Why is the birth rate so low in Berg?
That's a really good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
You didn't
That's
even
hilarious.
see any like families maybe telling small children to stay inside.
And that's
I'm
across like both movies too, right?
Yeah.
Like the live action and the animated. Yeah.
You just like never.
You never see other kids. Yeah, that's right.
These people are gonna die out.
Yeah.
Like there's just like hundreds of people and there's like 5 births every like 20 years.
I guess
like
so.
a society can't function like this.
They're too busy.
Like they don't need to worry about like defending themselves from dragons and growing food because they're just not going to exist anymore.
Yeah. They must just have a low life expectancy with all the dragons, and when they're fighting dragons, they're not making babies. So
yeah, like how many?
Like
so
5 kids.
Let's count the kids. So we have like Hiccup, Astrid, Snotlout, Fish Legs, Roughnut, and Toughnut. Is that it?
That's it.
6.
Yeah.
We have
6 children.
We have 6 children entering childbearing years at some point.
The gene pool's getting huge here, guys.
It's like seeing again this like huge army of like Vikings fighting the battles, and I was like, they are all far too busy for relationships that like online dating.
Yeah.
Or like the fear of being rejected isn't keeping these people from mating. I guess they just don't have time.
I guess not. Yeah. I didn't think about that, but that's so true.
So that can keep you up at night.
Nice. Oh, jeez. All right, after that lovely discussion, let's move on to the music. And I think there might be some tension here, but I'd be curious as to your thoughts on it.
Ooh, I'm gonna give you my hot take first.
Go ahead, please.
So, I still did tear up during Test Drive, and that was one I was kind of nervous for, because that's my favorite song in the score. It's my favorite moment in the movie.
Yep.
I go back to watch the scene on YouTube sometimes.
Absolutely. Just to feel something.
Just to feel something again. During that whole like segment, yay for the cinematography, yay for the wonderful score, but boo to that random pause.
Yes. Okay, all right.
That,
we might be more aligned than I think you are. Okay.
That
That
it didn't kill me, but it made me a little sad that I'm like
pianissimo part at the crux of the whole scene is just awful.
I was like, what are you doing?
Awful.
You're like grinding the best part of the movie
to a halt. Yeah, exactly.
It was very like honestly, like the end of Wicked, where they put that pause in Defying Gravity, where Elphaba is falling and the music just stops, and then she sees Child Elphaba like waving at her in the reflection, and it's stupid.
Yes.
That was what this was.
Right, yeah.
Like that, of all the songs to change, you keep your hands off of Test Drive.
Right, I know. Oh my gosh.
I still teared up at the end.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, so I'll run through my notes on that real quick. I still got the feels. I definitely teared up at the end of it because that scene with that music is just so powerful. It's awesome. I also said, didn't like the super soft interlude at the apex. That pianissimo part at the apex of the scene is just not good. Not good at all.
No, it's supposed to be like he loses the cheat sheet and the music kind of goes like sideways and like wonky.
Yes.
And then everything comes back into glorious, perfect fortissimo harmony whenever he drops, he throws the cheat sheet and
away.
gets back
well,
on back.
not quite. So here's another note I had for it. So they missed the cue. So what happens is, all right, so we're gonna replay the scene here. So what happens is Hiccup and Toothless climb, and then they go into a stall. And then when they stall, the hooks that hold Hiccup to Toothless come loose, they start falling. Then, like you said, the symphony turns into a very a-tempo, chaotic, very disharmonious, whatever the word is, like almost like the the THX sound a little bit or whatever. And then what happens is then the first punch is when they get hooked back up and they're flying like feet above the trees on this mountain or whatever, and Toothless puts out his wings as like a big air brake, basically. When that happens, there's a punch where it comes back in, right back into the part that you were talking about, where the chaoticness resolves into the beautiful melody of Test Drive.
And that also, does that correlate with Hiccup throwing his cheat
No,
sheet?
so then what happens is, so whenever Toothless throws out his wings, you get the da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Sorry for all the people who are actually musical singers out there. I suck at it, but that at least gives you the idea of what it is.
It's close enough.
So that part is what plays when he does the air brake move. And then you get the Test Drive theme, the da 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 da, when they start, like when Hiccup throws the cheat sheet away and he literally just trusts his instincts in Toothless and flies through all of the different rocks through it. They missed the first part of that. I think they missed the second part of that. I have to go back and watch it again.
Because it felt off. Everything after the break felt off, and it got back at some point because I cried.
Yeah,
so it definitely came back at some point.
Still emotionally impactful for sure.
But
you have to resolve the chaoticness of that track when Toothless throws the air brake wings out. When he throws his wings out to slow themselves down. Missed that entirely. On that one. Missed that.
Of all the things they could have just like copy pasted, that was something that was
They probably could have just straight copy pasted and it would have been great.
I would have been fine.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So, to that end, I'm going to branch off this since we're still on Test Flight. You maybe have a point on Test Flight, but let me
no, I actually have a point on something else.
Okay, so let me keep going on Test Flight. They overutilized Test Flight. There was too much Test Flight in this movie.
Did they use it?
Or Test Drive. I keep saying Test Flight. It's Test Drive. There's too much Test Drive in this movie.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Like, did you notice it?
I did, and this probably speaks to, I did notice it was used more than the original. It should have bothered me more than it did because it did like cheapen, like
the actual track.
It cheapened the track by using it too much. I think this speaks to me loving it so much that I still haven't gotten sick of it, but that's not a good reason to use it as much as they did. I'm not kidding you. I heard the motif, the Test Drive motif, probably 80% of the movie. Do you think they took the track from like what they're playing at Epic? Like, people can't get enough of this, and they just like took the theme park.
I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, great song, love it to death, whatever. But you hit gold, good job. Move on and do something else, or compose other things that are as good. Because like the Welcome to Burke motif is also really, really good, and they only use that at the intro and a little bit at the outro, and it was mixed in with Test Drive again.
Yeah.
So too much Test Drive in my opinion. I did like the piano rendition of Test Drive when Hiccup is revealed to have lost his leg and Toothless has to help him outside of out of bed and out of the building.
That-
I appreciated the piano version of that one. I liked that one, but the rest of it, too much test drive.
Yeah. I do think that piano rendition is from the original Soar.
Is it? Okay.
I do
Well, there you
think
go.
it is.
Okay.
But I want to speak to another point
Yeah.
that missed for me that I didn't even think about until it happened.
Okay.
So I can't remember the name of the track, but the music is playing whenever Hiccup is about to kill Toothless, and he can't do it. You know, he's holding up the knife, and
Yes.
Toothless just kind of closes his eyes and gives in.
Yes.
Now, I love the part in the music when he cuts Toothless free, and he, jumps like on top of Hiccup, he bares his teeth, and the music gets like super minor, and all these like bagpipes are playing, and you think that Toothless is gonna like literally bite his head off.
Yeah.
Like, it's a scary moment.
Yeah.
Now the music was technically the same, but I didn't feel like the ominous bagpipes had the same punch.
Okay.
And it took away from that moment for me.
Okay.
Because out of nowhere, the music is so like eerie and threatening immediately, just like Toothless is.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was not as strong in this.
Yeah. All right. I know we're in the music section, but I want to go back to something to touch on the scene you just talked about. When I see the animated version of How to Train Your Dragon, when Toothless is tied up and Hiccup is supposed to kill him with a knife, the way I interpret that scene is that Toothless looks up at Hiccup, sees him with the knife, about ready to hurt him, and Toothless is, realizing that his life has come to an end. And so what he does is he lays his head back down and closes his eyes because he's basically given up. He's like, this is the end. I might as well just close my eyes and
he's just
accept
bracing
it.
for impact. at that
Basically,
point.
yeah. I don't know if it was the editing or not good animating or whatever, but this version, the live action version, it just felt more like he just closed his eyes because he was just tired and bored.
Yeah. Honestly, it still hit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's just subjective.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I feel like most of the Toothless things did still hit because they just pulled him out of the movie pretty much.
Yeah, right. Yep.
At least they didn't like Sonic version one him.
Right, yeah. All right, anything more on the music at all?
I think that's it. It was, as a lover of How to Train Your Dragon, I saw all the originals in theaters. Just hearing the music in the theater again brought me back to when I saw the first How to Train Your Dragon, which was like when I was in college. Like me and my best friend were seeing it in the summer during the day, and it's like a life-changing experience, this music, right?
Yeah.
So hearing it in the theater, even with, albeit the things I didn't like, albeit a little bit too much, test drive, it was still like very enjoyable, nostalgic for me.
I agree. Again, like
The
I said,
music was like so much more satisfying in this than any of the other like live actions I've seen based off of like, music heavy films.
Right. Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, if you can get to the theater to see this with like a good surround sound system and a good big screen, that this is probably worth seeing in theaters, where you can get engrossed in the visuals and the audio of the movie. So the music is still epic and awe-inspiring and emotional.
Yeah. And John Powell should still be like remembered as like one of like the great composers for film.
Absolutely. All right, I guess that means we need to move on to CGI and special effects. What'd you think? Do you have any comments or notes on that one?
I thought it was fine. I thought the dragons they all looked like they were plucked out of the film, which is fine. Toothless was still cute and endearing and menacing when he needed to be.
Yeah.
Again, I compared the battle scenes to original Lord of the Rings trilogy. I thought they looked really good. It really didn't feel schmaltzy to me. Occasionally, the actions of like the humans felt a little fake, like Astrid doing like a random backflip cartwheel during one of the training sessions.
Yeah.
It felt very fake, very false. But most of it I thought held up.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I was looking at some of the CGI stuff. It was mostly good. I think the dragons looked pretty realistic to me. Their skin looked leathery and scaly, and so overall I thought it was pretty good. There were a couple places where it was rough. The two that I noticed watching it through the first time was when Hiccup brings the big basket of fish to distract Toothless while he straps the tail wing on. He kicks over the bag, and in the animated version, all the fish kind of like expectedly they kind of like spill out and slide out and stuff like that. In this one, it was really obvious to me. Like it's like one fish kind of like wiggles out basically. It looked so.
It felt very
not good.
like this is now animated.
They definitely gave that shot to the intern, I'm pretty sure. And then the other one that it was just a special effect thing that I just don't like. When Hiccup is forging the tail wing, every time he hit the hammer on the anvil with the metal, the whole screen flashed. That doesn't happen when you're forging. Like sparks fly and stuff like that, but it doesn't cause like a camera flare. So it was just really annoying. So there's like 3 or 4 hammer hits where the screen just like flashes at you. And it's like, that's not good. It was disorienting for me. I didn't like that. So overall, good CGI, but there are a couple of times where I'm just like, ugh, that could have used a little bit more work,
Right.
you know, in the post-processing. So, final thoughts. Is it worth watching? Is it not worth watching?
Yes and no. Yes, because it's better than a lot of the live action slop that we've been feasting on for the past like decade or so. Yes, because it's great to hear the music and some of it is really well cast, and I feel like the heart of the movie, of the original, is still here.
Agreed.
Maybe no, because it's so similar that if you're gonna watch it, why not just watch the original?
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know if it says worth watching it once you can't see it in theaters anymore.
Right, yep, agreed. Yeah, I've said it twice now, but I'm going to say it again. If you can get to a theater that has a giant screen and a good surround sound system, definitely go get engrossed in the audio and visual elements of this movie. But overall, it's pretty much the same movie, and I still would say the animated one is better. So base your trip to the theater on those points.
Yeah, those factors.
Exactly.
But it was just nice to like leave a live action movie that it felt more like a guilty pleasure, and it didn't make me feel just like depressed about the future of like cinema and animation, which is how some movies have made me feel. I feel a little more hopeful.
Yeah.
Not that I want just like okay live action remakes in
All
the
the time.
future.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know, it's complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated, but all right. But what's not complicated is out of 10. So, what do you give it out of 10?
Oh gosh. How about you go first?
I give it a 7 out of 10.
You know, I was gonna say 8, and I'm like, I think that's a little too generous. But I said no halves. 7. 7 is fine.
All right, very good.
7 is fine. 7.5 if I believed in decimals.
Yep, fair enough, which you do, because decimals are part of life.
Yes, but okay. So debates about decimals aside. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more hot takes or long-winded takes on movies. We'd love to hear if anybody else has seen the live action How to Train Your Dragon. What did you think? Did you think it was a waste of time? Did you think it was another fun way to relive the original? Tell us your thoughts below.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.